What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Now, this is a sad day because right behind you used to be a beautiful tank. So unfortunately, one of the worst things that could happen to a reefer is a tank crack or a tank leak or a seam busting. Basically, anything with your tank slowly draining or quickly draining is an awful experience. So how you making out, man? That was just yesterday. So thank you for coming on. I feel bad,
No,
but
no problem. It's good to be here. It's been 20 hours.
yep,
So, as you can see, I've put everything somewhat back together. Floors are mopped up. Fan's been going all night. Uh, Fish actually went to my local fish store, so they're actually being taken care of. So,
oh, that's handy. That takes a load off, eh?
and that's usually like a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, I don't know where to start. 5 o'clock, I come home from work. And first thing I usually do, come in, look at my tank, put some new nori, threw in a couple cubes of mysis, looked at it, like, okay, cool. Then I had to go to
Yeah.
my in-laws for some pizza and to
Mm-hmm.
clean out the basement. Came back around 8 o'clock, walked in, and I thought my ATO was just acting up. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But then I look at the top portion of the tank,
Oh,
like 5 inches are gone. I'm like, oh
oof.
no. So
Dang.
it's sort of at first I went into panic mode, but then I had to sort of I think anybody in any got anybody in this situation, you got to sort of first take a breath and you got to assess what's going on. What are you
Mm-hmm.
going to need? You're because you're racing. You want to save the fish. You want to save the floor. You want to make sure your equipment's not falling in the tank and this and that. You don't want to hold just like even more of a mess,
Chaos. Yeah.
chaos. So luckily, I have prepared. I have Rubbermaid buckets in the basement, extra buckets on hand. I have a full mixing station, so I have salt on hand. But yeah, it's
Yeah. Still crazy. At least you were home ish when it happened, right? You didn't
yeah.
come home to like a dry tank, which would be ugh.
So it was a Oceanic Tech tank. It was a 90,
Mm-hmm.
and no cracks, no nothing. I think just the bottom seam just went,
Yep.
and the slow, just steady trickle.
Dang. Oh, well, at least it was a slow trickle, but that still is
Yeah.
brutal regardless because you're still panicking and trying to get everything out as quick as you possibly
Oh yeah.
can.
Oh yeah.
So thankfully you had some Rubbermaids and some containers and stuff around to put stuff in, which helps.
Definitely. I mean, and I guess you can't be fully prepared for doomsday, because I've seen sadly guys that with full tank just like exploding or full crack down the whole
Yeah,
front pane, trying to collect all the water. It's so hard to gauge what you're going to need for that doomsday scenario.
it's true. I had similar thing once where a tank cracked on me, and but it was like a gushing sheet of water, and thankfully I was home. But I literally walked into the house with groceries, put everything down on the counter, and within like I'm gonna say 2 or 3 minutes after we walked in the door, starting to put groceries away, this super loud crack, and it was a bent glass tank. Because like it was only 24 gallons, but still a good chunk. And it was about spider cracked right around the edge of it. And I think I actually have a photo of it somewhere. And it just started gushing out water, and it was just like, what the heck? And I'm freaking out. And I somehow found duct tape. I'm trying to duct tape the tank, which kind of slowed it down and angled it. And same thing, I had like laundry baskets and Rubbermaids and 5 gallon buckets, basically anything you can think of. I'm trying to like put all the electronics in a little basket off the ground so it's not getting drenched. And it's chaos. It's whatever you can do.
I mean, I had a nice GHL fan
Mm-hmm.
in the bottom to cool off the tank. I'm actually in New Jersey, so it gets a little hot and humid here. So, I have in the sump. I had the GHL just running on the sump.
Yep.
That thing fell in and
Oh,
zapped. So it's done.
dang. That's
But it's an experience, and I think just even with like any type of, if you're even dealing with like a full like brook outbreak, or a full on a tank crash due to imbalance in chemistry, or even Mother Nature, or even
Hmm.
something like a tank failure like that. I think every reefer and anybody that's in this hobby, if they go through something like this, they I think will come out on top, and
Yep,
you will definitely learn something.
for sure. And now I think the other part is the dedication, because I mean, there's a lot of times people will be like, "Is it worth it again?" Right? Should I set up a new tank? Do you do it? Right?
I mean, that was me last night. I went to bed, I think around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I tried to go to bed like I think at like 1:30, but I couldn't sleep. So I went
Hmm.
outside, walked around the backyard, and I was really contemplating to myself. I'm like, is it worth it? I put in blood, sweat, tears into this. The whole monetary aspect of it. That's always that's usually one of the big things that everybody it's
Hmm.
like, ah, man, I put so much stuff into this, so much money, and now look. So
Yep.
yeah, I was contemplating. I'm like, you know what? I think I should just toss in the towel and just I don't know, do something else. But I was having a conversation with myself, and I'm like, but I have all the equipment, I have all
Hmm.
the stuff, I have the knowledge from the past 8 months that I've been even that had this tank running. I have the extra almost 2 years of knowledge of research and everything that I've been doing even before I set this thing up.
Yep.
So why should I just throw that away?
That's good.
So
I appreciate that attitude.
yeah, so I hope you know other reefers that either have this unfortunate incident or have had this unfortunate incident,
Hmm.
come out on top and think the same thing. You know what? I'm just gonna keep pushing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, if you already have everything, so at least it's not too bad or expensive to restart up, minus a new tank. But yeah.
Yeah, but it was nice. I was talking with my wife, and she's like, "Oh, what's going to happen? Are you going to have to like buy everything again? Are you going to have to go through the whole cycling thing and this and that?" And she's like, "You were like always testing all this stuff, and like you had the lights off for a while. You tried to explain to me." I'm like, "No, no, no." So this time around, it's actually going to be a little easier. I said downstairs I have all my live rock and Rubbermaid, with the heaters going, circulating. I actually took my Kessels downstairs. They're actually now keeping some of
Hmm.
the coral and the coral line alive, and so that'll be down there until I figure out, what
Yeah.
brand tank or style or whatever I decide to do. So
What you're gonna do
it's
next?
there.
Yeah. Greg was asking, so the bottom seemed like go. Did it happen near the overflow box by chance?
No, it actually happened in the back corner.
Okay.
I'm guessing he's dabbled with a oceanic tech tank, and I've heard in the past that on a lot of them, if a seam goes, it's right where the overflow is on the
Okay.
bottom. Yeah, but
So
yeah, it was the far back corner, and I think it just ran along the whole thing, and
dang,
voila.
eh. See, I've never personally had a seam let go. But I had the glass crack itself, and I was with a bent glass tank, right, with the like the circular, which looks sweet. And I've had 3 bent glass tanks, but now I'm kind of like scared of them after that happened. And I'm like, nice flat glass, no stress on it. Oh, no.
It's funny. I was actually talking to a few of my buddies, and they're like, "Well, what kind of tank are you going to get next?
Mhm.
And are you going to go used? Or are you going to go new?" And I'm like, "Well, the first thing I'm going to say right away, yes, I'm going to buy a new tank.
Yep.
You know, um, Listen, I think within the hobby, it's a with a used tank. I think it's hit or miss.
Hmm.
You can reseal it yourself. You can, set it up, but there's always that, it's going to be in the back of your mind when you're putting your head on that pillow. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if something happened, I think I'd end up buying a new one.
Oh yeah, I'm told I'm looking at a couple, manufacturers, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna gauge and see what's
Do
going to
you
fit.
do you know how old the tank was?
Let's see. It was actually manufactured in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
2005.
Okay. Just kind of curious. What
I
is it?
mean,
21, 15,
it
16
has
years
some
old?
years on it. So,
Yeah.
and
because
I
I've
was what's up?
oh no, I've said some things that say like silicone's good for at least 10 years, but they don't really.
At least 10 years.
uh,
I mean,
I know. So who knows, right?
yeah, it's. And then the other question I was asked, like, well, are you going to get a rimless? Are you going to get a one with a Euro brace? And honestly, just from my experience, because I've been doing salt water since I've been like freshwater since I've been like 13. I did
Hmm.
like discus, angels, all that kind of stuff. So I was very into like the Amazonian. I had like I when I lived in Sacramento, I had like a 300-gallon acrylic
Nice.
Amazon river basically. It was really
Yeah, that's cool.
cool. But I haven't dabbled with a rimless tank.
Yeah.
But now I'm sort of like asking myself, is it going to look nice? It's not. But my only question: have people felt that they're less safe than
My
a Eurobrace tank, or
So, okay, here's the two things. One, I was throwing this out for I forget to say, but Greg was saying I've never even heard of this, but he said I would recommend looking at Age hybrid tank with the stainless steel perimeter bracing. Never even seen stainless steel except for like super old tanks, but
yeah, that's like I think like
yeah,
80s
yeah.
hybrid.
But
That's cool.
okay, so both my tanks are rimless. Now the one thing with rimless, like if you're doing a custom tank, go for the thicker glass, right? Because that's if you have thinner glass, it's going to bow and there's less silicone contact. So I've always overkilled mine with thickness. Um, if you do a Euro brace, you can get away with less thickness on a tank to make it lighter, a little easier to move, a little cheaper because you use half-inch glass instead of three-quarter or something like that. But it kind of depends. But I like the look of rimless, and I have not personally had an issue on the handful I've had, but they've been
Yeah,
solid.
so I've seen them, and I've seen so many setups, and I mean they look very sleek and
Yeah.
clean and nice looking, and so gotta
Ten,
I gotta wait. I still have a lot of thinking to do, a lot of shopping to do. So
Yep, definitely. So your local fish store is holding your fish for you, which is like a huge relief because you don't have to stress about that the whole time, which is nice, huge.
huge, huge, huge. So that was actually this morning. They like opened at 11 o'clock. I actually took the day off of work today to work. But yeah, I basically put uh, everything in buckets. I had I had Tomei tangs, blue tangs. Actually got hit today with the blue tang. He was not happy.
Okay, got a good tail
But,
slap.
oh yeah, total tail slap, scalpel right through the hand. But
Yeesh.
and that was when I was trying to get everything out. I was fumbling with everything with the net, this and that. I was trying to get the net to the other side. I didn't see it in a rock. Slaps me, started bleeding everywhere. Got the alcohol put on top of it, put some liquid bandage, and kept on. But with the local fish store, yeah, they took all my fish in, and they're going
Nice.
to be holding all my fish in their main display. So
Mm-hmm.
very
Nice.
thankful for that.
Nope, that is
Not a
good.
lot of places do that.
No, exactly. So I mean, it's good to have a good relationship with your local fish store or other local reefers. I know, like when mine buggered, thankfully someone had a larger tank. They let me like a 50 gallon, whatever it was. But it was a long one, so it gave me lots of space to fit all my stuff in it. So they weren't living in laundry baskets for a month, which helped.
Yeah, so after I drained the tank,
Mm,
um, I had a couple 55 gallons. I had a couple like 30-gallon breeders. I had like they're all dusty. There's a cat hair in them and everything. I just poured the water in. There's like cat hair and these bugs in the water. I
yep.
just poured everything in, tossed all the fish in, split up all my heaters, all the heater controllers, all the heater probes. I also had a lot of extra heaters on hand because you never know when a heater's going to explode on you or fail. So I always have extra heaters, extra pumps downstairs. I have those. I have a couple boxes of those cheapo, power heads.
Hmm.
They're like I don't know, like $40 or something. And so
Yeah.
I put those in. Had a couple of power strips running around my front living room, and mopped and went to bed.
Yeah. That's the hard thing, right? You can only go so long and sucking up stuff and
Like
eventually exhaustion
you
kicks in
know,
and then
it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. You're basically done set. my sump was still filled. I had everything else still connected, this and that. I'm just looking at it like, there's at this point, there's nothing more I can do. It's really just clean up,
Yep.
getting everything out of the water, uh, putting all my power heads in, vinegar and cleaning them out and everything, my skimmer, and then taking the fish to the fish store today. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh, I know. So I guess you had a lot of containers and spare tanks and some extra equipment, which was probably like actually extremely useful right now.
extremely useful. And it's said a lot, and that advice is given a lot to a lot of new reefers, or even reefers that have been in this hobby for a while. But have some backup stuff.
Hmm.
Really, either have, like you said, like Rubbermaid containers, those the 22-gallon roots, not the full
Yep.
size, but those 22-gallon
The
ones.
half ones.
They stack up really nice,
Hmm.
and they're a lot easier to move than like a 50-gallon,
Yep.
or having a big horse trough. So
That's a good
I
point.
had those on hand. Some old, tanks from the freshwater days that were just in
Yep.
storage.
Perfect.
And yeah, it's being, I think, just prepared for whatever. Not only just the tank exploding, but having extra equipment on hand, so especially heaters. Heaters, that's I see it all the time on different forums and different Facebook pages, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, my heater exploded," and this and that. It's just being prepared.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and that's the thing too. If you upgrade your heaters once in a while, keep your old still working ones as a spare to deal with these situations. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I had. I actually just I was going to basically replace my heaters every 6 months. So a couple months ago, I
I never
bought two
replaced mine.
brand new heaters,
Yeah.
and I put the old ones downstairs. Yeah, they're only 6 months old, but you know what? Now I have a bunch of heaters, and actually
Yep.
worked
Nice.
out because I couldn't go to the local fish store, or I couldn't, I didn't have, that much, space for, I guess, all the fish. And,
Yep.
I have, different types of fish, and, I don't want to put a fox face with, different other fish, like in a small little container that
Yeah.
go at it.
That's the hard part. I'm just thinking if I had to deal with my tank, like there is so many fish in there to have to deal with. It's like there's too many. It'd be crazy.
I had, I had a bucket of anthias. I had a bucket of, a cleanup crew slash, shrimp, crabs, hermit crabs. So that was a separate container. Then I had a bunch of containers for all my tanks, and I wanted to split them up. I don't want them, all fighting. And then I had all the sand dwellers.
Hmm.
I was actually surprised. I emptied out my tank,
Yeah.
and I heard flapping, and I'm like, oh my God,
What I
my
forget.
male, my Melanaris wrasse. So I'm looking in, and he's just on top of the sand, like gasping for. I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God, go in there, throw him into one of the tanks. He floated to the bottom, and I'm like, oh, like really, what's next? 10 minutes later, he actually started swimming around. I'm like, oh my
nice.
God, okay, at least he didn't die. But I'm like, oh my God, it's so.
Oh, it just one after another. It's just chaos on top of chaos. Holy smokes, man. Well, I'm happy that it's at least the chaos is over, and then you have time to breathe for a little bit and then figure out your new game plan. So I guess in like a tiny silver lining, it gives you a bit of a chance to like do a little bit of a do-over of what would you change or what would you redo now?
Okay. I was actually, again, I had a lot of conversations today with like a lot of people, and
Hmm.
that came up a lot too. Like, what are you going to do different?
Yeah.
And honestly, I wasn't fully happy with my aquascaping. I
Yep.
actually did that the NSA type aquascape, with for flow and room, and
Hmm.
I had basically all these like basically fingers that came in interlocked.
Yeah.
It was cool, and I think I just was rushing it a little too much. I was excited, and and then I threw it in the tank. I want to get the tank wet. I want to put fish in there.
Hmm.
And then I looked and like, oh man, if I start putting coral in here, like I'm gonna have to start breaking down stuff and moving stuff. I'm like, ah. So I'm definitely gonna change up my aquascape. I'm gonna
Hmm.
do maybe it's sort of like a maybe like a hybrid, like a NSA slash rock wall, and make a valley. I don't. I gotta like think about it, but definitely the aquascape I want to change. That's one thing
Nice.
I want
Well,
to change.
at least if you have a rough idea of the size you're getting for a new tank, you can just start playing with it now and just keep dabbling with a little bit here and there and just keep tweaking it.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing too. Like every single your stand is all like because I custom built my stand and it's like it's perfect for like a 90. And they're like well how about you maybe extend it, go bigger, this and that.
Yeah.
So that's also in mind. I got to sort of beef it up if I want to go maybe a little wider.
Hmm.
See if I can. I mean, at this point, I can. So
Yeah.
this is sort of like a automatic upgrade. and
Yep.
and a lot of people, they have that problem too. They set up the tank, they get a 75, they're like, what? I mean, I should have went bigger, should have went bigger. And unfortunately, it's a sad thing. But
Hmm.
again, it's like you said, it's like a silver lining.
It is. You got to look at the bright side, right? Like it
Exactly.
sucks. It's a shitty situation, and it's like sucks a lot out of you to deal with it. But at the same time, you kind of do it, and you're like, all right, okay, it's the chaos is over. How are we gonna make this better? And then kind of you got to look at the silver lining. It's what gets you through it all, right, and keeps you going with
That
it.
that I think is that was like the tipping point, I guess, in the
Hmm.
whole like doomsday scenario. Like once you get all the water out of the main display, the leak is now stopped. The the water on the floor is mostly soaked up. That's when you're
Hopefully.
like, okay,
Yeah.
I can breathe. It happened. You just deal with it. I'm here. I'm in the now. At least the worst of it is now over. I just got to deal with it now.
Hmm.
That's what I've been doing all day, cleaning stuff, and now I'm looking towards the future and saying, what am I going to do next? And I have it's been great. Have been getting a lot of support from the reefing community and everything. And so I've been getting messages all day, phone calls, and they're like, "Oh, dude, go bigger, go bigger." Have Shooey's reef be huge. Go for it. So
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yeah. No, it's true. We should. For me, all of my tank upgrades have been inspired by me running out of coral space. So I always think it's a good idea to sneak in more length.
Yeah,
So if
definitely.
you have the space, that extra foot or two is nice because every tank is like, oh, I had like a 1 foot reef, then a 2 foot reef, and then a 5 foot reef, and then a 6 foot reef. So you just keep tacking on more and more space.
I
But
mean, like, technically, if I wanted to, I could probably put like an 8 footer in here. So,
well, now's the time to consider it. Especially if you do a
but,
custom one, it can be any size you want.
yeah.
Mhm.
So those are all the things now that are going through my head. So
Mhm. How did all your gear survive? I know you said the one fan, not so much, but did the rest of
yes,
everything else
so
make it?
a fan zapped itself and actually blew my breaker
Ooh.
in my house. But
Mhm.
again, like talking about like being prepared and planning out your build. Actually, before I started my build, I actually ran a dedicated breaker to
Nice,
my main box in my basement. So I have it's labeled reef tank wall.
nice.
That's the breaker. I beefed it up so it can take the heating, the lighting, especially the lighting. That's the most big one.
Yep.
Um, and ran a new line. So when all the water and everything went to it, that popped, and the rest of the house stayed on.
Hmm.
So, um, but yeah, so it was the cooling fan plopped in, a dry side of a MP40
Oof.
got dropped into one of the
Ah,
holding tanks because of the chaos and
dang.
my, I guess, overlook and not paying attention to where things were going. So I thought it was just an empty box so I can start putting gear. But no, I just dipped the whole thing in.
Yeah.
So that's drying
Nice.
out. I'll see if maybe that's. I'll
Hopefully
plug
still good.
maybe in a couple of days and see if it turns on.
Yeah. If not, it,
Other than that,
yeah.
everything gear wise, lighting was okay. That's a first because I actually had a canopy on it. So that's
Mhm.
the first thing I did was basically unhook everything and take the canopy off so I can actually reach in fully and like get down and dirty and
Yeah.
elbow
Get in
deep
there.
in sand.
Yeah. How challenging was it to catch all your fish and get everything out of there?
That sucked. That just
Yes.
you know like I at first I when the tank was being drained, that's when I tried to do it at the same time.
Hmm.
So I tried going in, and I'm like, with all my rock work and the NSA and everything, like, this is gonna suck.
It's hard to get a net
Um,
all around all the little rock things. It's a
oh
bugger to
yeah,
catch fish.
I have like different size nets too, so I'm like trying to get this net and then using this net, sort of like scooping them together. And this guy's like trying to flop out of the tank. So I'm like, okay, so then I stopped that and grabbed the whole one side of the aquascape, and I got to say, like, I think used a lot of super glue and that Marco cement because
Yeah.
that thing did not budge. But it was just so waterlogged. Just,
Hmm.
but I took one side out, took the
Hmm.
other side, and then I had all these different islands and this and that other like dead coral that I put in, branching stuff. So I just was just tossing everything into buckets, and then finally had a nice clean, almost clean sand bed. But at that point, everything's murky, so I'm like trying to see.
Yeah.
Okay, I see like a yellow smudge over there. I think that's the fox. Okay, and yeah, that was the hard part. And again, this morning I did the same thing again. I had to take all the rock out of the holding tanks because, and luckily the clowns actually jumped out of the tank, so I actually picked them off the floor and just put them in the bucket. So they did me a
Just
favor.
they're trying to help you out. Save us.
And yeah, and that's when Mr.
Oh,
Mrs.
got the nice.
hit my hand.
Did it suck? I've never actually been hit with the little scalpel on the tang.
Oh, all day today, like I've blasted it with like alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, everything, but it is so red. My hand, I've like it's pulsing. I think I cleaned it out. Hopefully, there's not some weird post that I'm not here anymore.
Yeah.
uh,
If I
cleaned it
stop
out.
hearing from you, something bad happened.
So, and but again, like during the whole excitement of everything,
Hmm.
and not real excitement, uh, yeah. So I had to keep going, so I just put alcohol on it, put that liquid bandage stuff,
Yeah.
started blowing on it, and it finally
Yeah.
dried and it was good.
That's good. Is liquid bandages super glue?
It's like a safe, I guess, a safe super glue. It's like they have to like spray stuff. It's like new skin or something.
Okay.
So that worked out.
Okay. That's good
Yeah.
to know. I think that's why
And
super glue
my
is
kid's screaming. Sorry.
he sad about the tank. I understand. How's the kid about it? Were they sad?
Well, I think that was the biggest gut punch.
Really? Oh,
My daughter, she's 7,
yeah.
and she considers all the fish her fish, and
Yeah.
she
Oh.
named all the fish. For example, the Melnaris wrasse was
Yeah.
bubblegum. The foxface was Zorro. So she came up with all these names, and of course, the blue tang was Dory.
Yeah.
um, but she came home and she saw me in a panic. So
Yeah.
she also was very upset, distraught.
Hmm.
She went to bed, and this morning, she was getting ready for school. She came up to me, gave me a big hug, and she's like,
Oh.
you know what, Daddy, you're gonna do it again, and we'll get our fish back from the fish store
Yeah.
because right now they're just at a hotel. I'm like, yeah, basically, and they'll come back to you. Smart
She's a
kid,
good, she's a
but
good support system. That's actually good motivation as well.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, but that was, I think,
Mm.
the most, that was the biggest punch to the gut,
Yeah.
was my daughter was just so devastated, and I just, seeing her face and the tears and everything. I was like, you know, ah,
It's hard.
you know. So
Oh
it's
well.
tough, By trade, I'm a project manager in Manhattan. I do construction,
Hmm.
so do that during the day, and then all my time off I do reef stuff.
Yep. Nice. Well, on the plus side, your daughter's good motivation to stick with it too. If she named all the fish, I mean, you got to keep them going.
Oh, exactly, exactly. So, and she's like, "Well, you're gonna get him back, right?" I'm like,
Yep.
"Yeah, yep, I'm gonna get him back. Gonna get him back." So
So if you're on
that's
the
another
fence,
thing.
she may have pulled you back in. Maybe
I
you might have been
I
hooked already, but
partially, yeah. You know what?
yeah.
I think so. Like especially like my second guessing myself last night, and
Hmm.
then to this morning with her, giving me a big hug and saying, "Oh, you're gonna do it again. It's gonna be awesome."
Yeah.
And that's coming from a 7-year-old. I'm like, okay,
You're like,
I want to
yeah,
show her that,
yeah,
what,
yeah,
yeah,
I am.
you know, even with raising kids or even a reef tank, we we fail, and
Hmm.
we learn from our failures, our mistakes, and it just makes us
Yep.
stronger and succeed, I think, even more. So
Motivation to do it better and make it extra awesome.
yeah, it is.
Oh, dang. That's crazy, man. I feel bad for you. It does suck, but the new tank will be good. It'll be extra good.
It will be. It will be. And
Yep.
again, like I know I said this before, but to everybody out there with the used tank, or if this happened to them before, or
Hmm.
if they're worried about it, or so forth, keep going.
Yep.
That's, I think, my biggest takeaway from all this is just keep pushing through, and that, and also just being prepared.
Yeah, no, for sure. And having some extra bins or buckets kicking around is a good idea. It's not something most people normally would think of, but you're buying your brute trash can for mixing salt water, pick up an extra one or two. They stack together, and if you need
That
it, there's a lot of
in the corner.
container, right? So
Yeah.
not much more space, but it could be extremely handy. Like I know in Minecraft, I literally had some like the wife's like laundry basket that was like a solid container. Like anything I can find was literally just trying to like fill and contain it. So, whew.
Yeah, it's that initial like freak out when you're like, oh my god, you're finding anything, like finding pots and pans in the kitchen just to collect the salt water.
I know,
So
eh? Glasses of water with clownfish in it everywhere, pots, whatever you got around.
but I mean,
Hmm.
again, like once it's drained
Yep.
and that initial leak is like done, that's when you like sort of get that little sliver of relief. You're like, okay,
The
the
worst is
complete
over.
worst is over.
Yep.
I now have to deal with the tank being broken.
Hmm.
Now I can move forward.
Yep.
It's that whole scary, like, will the tank break and this and that, and it breaks and this and that. That whole, like, I guess, crescendo to
Hmm.
that point,
Yeah.
and then after that, it's sort of like a nice gradual down. You calm down, you think about what's going on, and then
Hmm.
you put one foot forward and you keep going.
Yep, for sure. Okay, random question. Would you buy a used tank again?
My first initial answer is going to be no. I am
Yeah.
not going to be buying a used tank again. I
Yeah.
think just I mean, again, I don't want to like bash like people buying, used tanks.
Hmm.
I firmly believe that there's nothing wrong with, new tanks. Like, for example, like this one.
Hmm.
When I bought it from this guy, there was one owner, whatever, and he had a reef, and he was like moving away, and he actually honestly didn't know what he even had, so he
Yep.
gave it to me for a very good deal. And
Nice.
yeah, and so I set it up in my garage,
Hmm.
filled it up, and it was solid and leak free. A
Hmm.
2-week leak test. I don't think a lot of people do that.
No, I didn't even. My first custom tank, I did it for a couple hours,
Yeah,
and then my second and third tank, I didn't even leak test it. I just
he
filled it
just
directly with
put water.
RODI. Yep, I'm
So
just like I was like, that looks good.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, again, going back to if I would buy a tank, no, I'm gonna buy
Yeah.
used. But again, like I said, I wouldn't bash a used tank. Just I would make sure you
Hmm.
really do your leak tests,
Yeah.
and honestly, scrape out the silicone and just redo the silicone because
See, yeah. Now, if you were to do that, so I've never done it. I thought about it. Like I have
I mean,
bought,
same. I've never done it
yeah.
either. It's basically based on theory.
Well, so this theory may be way out to lunch, but in general, like you would, in theory, cut off all the silicone and redo all the seams and put it back together. Now, in most tanks, there's that little triangle of silicone in the corner, and that one is not really doing too much because majority of the connection is between the glass panes. So part of me wonders if how much benefit there would be if you had like you did like your own armored seam type of dealios where you put like a little triangle of glass something there and siliconed it out, like cut it out to that corner. The original silicone is still on the corner, but then you're doing your own like secondary bead on top of it. I don't know if that actually had much benefit or not, but food for thought. And I think you froze. Yeah, you totally froze. So I don't know. It'd be interesting because I've never fully re-siliconed a tank, but food for thought. Um, Now with mine, when I haven't bought a used tank, there's I bought a 90-gallon Fluval Saka one once, and it was so many scratches on it, and that's honestly my main hesitation of buying a used one again would be from all the scratches. Hello.
Little
Oh,
bit technical difficulties.
welcome back. Yeah, you totally just froze. You had a nice smile on your face during the freeze, though. I
Oh,
can,
okay, cool.
I continued on my silicone story. Um, so, so I was saying, because generally, like, you could cut out the silicone and rerun a bead down the middle, and that would almost be like a second layer different from the original silicone because the original silicone's in between the actual panes.
Yeah.
So like a proper reseal would be taking all the panels apart, which seems a bit sketchier. So I don't know.
Yeah, because you're now going into the realm of like actually becoming like a tank maker.
Yeah.
Like, you got to make sure you have all your angles correct,
Yep.
your the degrees, amount of silicone. It's not just just
It's
goop
the
it on there
gap.
and slap it together.
You need something to space it and have that like couple mils of gap for the silicone to go in between. I think that's
Exactly.
the trickiest part. You need to build some little jigs or something to hold it perfectly.
Yeah, and
But
like with just like scraping it out, and resealing it. Um,
yeah,
to me, it's more of like a band, I think.
yeah, I think so. I I think a smaller tank I would maybe a 40-gallon or under. I wouldn't worry about it. But as you get bigger and there's more pressure and water volume, I'd be more hesitant to do it.
I was just going to say, I think it really has. I think the common factor is that water pressure on that front pane, the side panes,
Yep.
because I've seen those horror stories too, and I see pictures of guys with like ratchet sets that are just strapped around the tank because their seams are just like peeling apart. So
Mm-hmm. So
that's
yeah, Sam in the chat. My armored seams have a triangle glass piece stock from Crystal Dynamics. I think that's a cool idea, the armored seams, where they put that little like triangle of glass in there.
yeah, that's the basically the seam protector,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. So that's really good to have, especially if you have a lot of like critters like sea urchins and crabs that like to sort of crawl up, the seam and start picking at,
Silicone munchers.
especially sea urchins. Mine, I would actually looked at the top seams. You can tell, when the sea urchin sort of nibbles at it.
Yeah.
So.
Little buggers, eh? Oh, I know. Now there's another thing you can do. I did this on one of my tanks. It wasn't cheap, but I 45 the corners.
Okay.
So it like kind of blended the seam, which was kind of cool. So like you only saw it from certain angles, but it also that 45 gives you more surface area of contact than a butt join does. So that I don't know how big of a difference is, but one consideration, but it wasn't cheap because to get them to 45, the corners added like a couple $100 on it. So
That, and then you start to go into, do I want little iron glass? I want starfire glass, and that's actually the things that are going through my head too now. Like, oh, I want to make sure, because the oceanic tanks, they actually came with from the manufacturer, the front panel was starfire glass.
yeah.
So you get that really nice crystal clear. You don't have that green
Mm,
hint to it when you're like
yeah.
looking through the glass. You get that like really crystal view.
Okay. Now you said just your front glass had that, but the side glass did not. So could you tell a difference looking from front to side glass?
On a good day, actually, yes.
Okay.
There was actually a difference. The only thing that, what I noticed though, and I
Mhm.
think this is a very common thing in star glass is a lot softer. You
Yep.
got to be extremely careful. Like, I mean, acrylic glass, glass acrylic, it
Hmm.
scratches.
Yeah.
But starfire glass, I think it has, the glass is actually softer
Yeah.
on the surface. So when you're going down with the scraper and you're either coming up or this, you got to make sure you don't get that little tiny grain and come up and go.
The the one that got, I have one faint one on my tank, and it bugs me every once in a while. I don't see it normally, but I'm like on the ground looking up at the tank, I'll faintly see it, and I think it was from a snail being on my magnet cleaner. It's like, you buggers.
That's
So
that's the thing too. Scratches suck.
they do.
There's I was actually able. There was a really like a when I got it, there were actually a couple of scratches right in front of it. Actually went to auto body shops type place and actually buffed out the front glass and actually came out okay.
How much work was it to do that?
A good like 2 days.
Okay, that's fair.
It's work, and like me, I'm just very meticulous. Maybe that's just me. I'm very meticulous. If there's a little scratch, I'm like So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but
Yeah.
I just like to do that sometimes, that extra mile too.
Hmm.
Yeah. And especially if it's a used tank, you want to make sure you try to do your best to make it look its best when
Yeah.
it's up and running, and you're showing it off to your friends and so forth.
Yeah, I agree. When you were frozen, one of my stories about a used tank, yeah, I got a 90-gallon Fluval socket, which was like this bent glass. It was a cool tank, but it
Okay.
had a ton of like scratches in it, and it ate away at me. It was a planted tank, and like you didn't really see the scratches when it was filled, but when it was dried, but the algae would grow in it, and you see these weird little lines. And again, it's like a Mr. Clean Eraser and clean it out. It was a pain in the butt. So I have fear of scratches now. That's my biggest fear of used tanks, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Oh, but those are Mr. Clean Erasers. That's a cool thing to have. Like, I have a whole pack of them, of like the non-scented Joe
Yep.
Schmo, the Mr. Clean, or the Home Depot brand or Lowe's brand.
Yep.
Those things are awesome for not only glass, but like I've been using them to cleaning. I'm cleaning off Coraline, uh, just gunked up, stuff that like my Ecotech sump pump.
Yep.
I don't know when the last time I actually did a full cleaning on it. I opened it up
Today?
today and I'm like, wow. It was just like brown sludge, and then like, wow.
So does all
So,
your equipment look like new and it's been pristine shined up today?
oh, today now, yeah, my skimmer's all nice.
Yep.
I got cleaned out my full, my uh, my UV is all
Yep.
cleaned out inside out. Took it all apart. Took
Nice.
almost every single piece of wet equipment down to the last screw apart.
Yep.
I even went as far as like getting Q-tips, and I was like, stuff today.
Hmm.
But I know that it's going to be put in storage for a little while until I get something set up. So I don't want salt buildup. I want to try to keep it in pristine condition. So when I do set it up, all of a sudden I'm not putting in my equipment. All of a sudden it's like, great, now I got to buy this, I got to buy that, because now the impeller is like rusted shut or this and that. So
Yeah. No,
you got
it's
to.
good though.
So I cleaned everything with like RODI and everything, made it all nicey nice and shiny. So now I just got to find a box, because it's all over my kitchen table and my wife's starting to yell at me.
Yeah, it happens. All right. So new tank. Are you gonna do Starfire again? I know you said you're debating it today. What are you
Yeah,
leaning
I mean,
towards?
like again, you asked me, is there a difference?
Yes.
So, and my response was, on a good day, yes.
Yep.
Honestly, if you have the extra cash to, I think, put in a Starfire glass,
Hmm.
okay. But honestly, I don't think it makes a crazy amount of difference. Like,
Yeah.
so
I
what's your take on
I think on thinner glass, like half inch or under, it's probably negligible. But I think if you're doing like 3/4, like 19 mil or thicker, I think that sort of starts to make a bigger difference. Because the thin glass isn't that much, but the thicker, you got more of those little green tinges, I guess, as you do it. So on a small tank, I don't know if it's worth it, but yeah, if it's a thicker glass, then
it?
I would more lean towards doing it.
Yeah. So again, that's right now one of my up in the air choices. Like, no, I'm going to do Starfire. I'm like probably going to do it anyway.
Yeah,
So, but I'm
nice.
definitely leaning in that direction because again, I'm going to make sure the next tank I get, I'm definitely going to get nice thick glass,
Yeah,
Euro bracing. It's going to be tank.
be a tank. Beautiful.
But
Now, do
but
you
then
think?
again,
Yeah.
now it's like seeing your tank like right behind you and everything,
Hmm.
and that with the rimless, like I'm
Yeah.
scratching my head. Should I go that route? So it's there's a lot of
Hmm.
juggling to do.
Yeah, that's fair. I think. What Nick say? I use glass cleaner than Starfire. Oh, whatever. So yeah, thicker glass, I think is worth it. Thinner, I think it's negligible.
I, I would
I
agree. I
Yeah,
would in that aspect, yeah. 'Cause I
yeah,
mean, I think it's just the chemical the chemical composition of the glass. I mean, it's really just it is what it is.
yeah,
Thicker glass, you have more. You're going to have more, I guess, meat or mass to the glass
yeah,
to actually physically look through.
yeah.
So you want to have less of because they make the glass with iron. So
Hmm.
more iron in the glass. That's what makes it
More
green
green. Yeah,
and cheaper too.
yeah. Okay, Harkins Aquatic, acrylic for the win. So I have been scared of acrylic because of scratches. That being said, I have an acrylic sump, and I just use the Mr. Clean eraser, or I use like an old credit card to clean it. But I've always been scared of scratches in a main tank, and I know you can buff them out much easier, but still you have to drain it down and do it. I don't know.
I mean, that's actually a really good point right now because I actually haven't even thought of acrylic. Like
Mm-hmm.
before I said I used to have a 300. It was all acrylic, but in maybe I was younger and maybe I was a little more, I don't know, not as meticulous as I am
Yeah,
now. So when I would be cleaning the glass, whatever, oh, I got to scratch, oh, I got to scratch, or whatever. But me, I think that's my big fear too on a
mm-hmm.
crook tank is just that one little rock that gets inside that magnet cleaner. You start going back and forth on the glass, and all of a sudden,
Big zigzag. Ugh.
you get like zigzags, like oh no. So I mean, but I mean, they're lighter.
Yeah,
They're
tough.
the construction of them are right on par with glass tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't want to bash acrylic tanks either because they
Mm-hmm.
have their pros and cons, as well, just like
Yep.
with glass tanks. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a personal preference, what
Yep.
you're used to or what you like, style. So, because I mean that's a big thing in the hobby too, is people
Aesthetics.
aesthetics. Like
Mm-hmm.
me, I set up a whole a custom cabinet system, and I put a
Yep.
nice canopy on it because me personally, I like it when my lights are enclosed in a canopy. So when I'm sitting down and having my evening beverage, I can
Mm-hmm.
enjoy and not have to put on sunglasses because I have
Yeah.
lower couches. It's
Yep.
but again, it's just personal preference and style.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. Like I've always thought about it, the aesthetics of a canopy because it's nice not to see any light. You focus on just your picture frame of the tank.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like not having any bulk above the tank and nice and open and minimalistic. So it's yeah,
Well, that too, like, and especially maintenance. You know, you got to have to make sure you have a high enough. I mean, not only maintenance, but for your height of your lights, you got to make sure you
hmm
have, you know, and it goes into what type of coral you're keeping in this and the LPS, SBS, the blah blah blah.
yeah,
But you know, just getting into the tank, you got to make sure you have enough room to actually, if you got to get your
fit.
hand in there or get something out, you know, you have this big bulky thing that you're like almost like crawling into, and a lot of the times that's how I felt. And I'm like, I got to really crawl in, sort of like maybe like
Yeah,
move my elbow this long way, or you know, and you know, getting older, you sort of get like a weird like you know pinch.
yeah, huh? Yeah, that's fair. Nick, remote control actuated canopy.
Go. I mean,
So,
on my tank, I did have I did put in pistons.
oh,
So
did
when
you? Oh, you
I
actually did that?
oh yeah,
Nice.
it
Yeah,
wasn't like remote control, but it was, you
just to make
know,
it nice and gentle and smooth and.
nice and gentle, soft close, soft open.
Mm,
So you know, it wasn't just like a flap up and down piece of wood.
yeah, it's a
So,
nice
and then
touch.
yeah, so it would be cool. I mean, I've seen some really cool canopies. These designs where it's like sort of like, if you're looking at the profile of the canopy, it's like almost like a like a zigzag almost, and like a portion of it actually completely flips over, and you can rest on top, and basically like 70% of the surface of the water is completely open, so you can really do maintenance.
Nice.
So this time around, I think I'm probably going to do a canopy again, but I'm going to
Yep.
probably change up the style and design of my canopy just for ease of access for maintenance. I mean,
Yep.
it was good to like flip it open, you know, plop a couple, you know, cubes of mysis in there. But like when I'm like trying to, you know, put in a couple new frags, or you know, even trying to acclimate, you know, a new fish or this and that. If you know you like to use the boxes or you know,
hmm
bags or whatever, it's a little it's a little more difficult with the.
Yeah. Nice. Nick, thank you for the 99 super chat. And Nick said, I'd be happy to design a unique canopy for you. So Nick's actually in the UK and he designs like aquarium stands and canopies and stuff to make tanks look fancy. So there you go. He always has crazy ideas, so you might get something wild. You never know.
Very cool. I mean, great minds that think alike. You know, I do construction on the side. I do you know, my own little mill work on the side. I like to
hmm
woodwork and you know tinker all the time. But you know, getting new ideas like that, and
hmm
I mean, stuff like that's just great for the community too. You just you
Yeah.
know, connections and getting new ideas from people across the world. It's
It
awesome.
is cool. One thing that'd be super a live geometry canopy. That sounds intense, Nick. I've seen one that actually the guy that did concept that did one of my tanks. I think he did on his, but he had a couple extruded aluminum bars on the back, and it had a little actuator on it, and like little linear bearings. The whole canopy went way up out of the way, so it was just like full
That,
access to the tank. I was like,
that
that is pretty sweet.
actually, that I saw a recent build where it was like posted like a VRS or somewhere. I saw it, but this guy built this like you know full on canopy, but every single it was all panels, and
hmm
every single panel actually flipped up, and you can
Yeah.
move the whole thing up. It was
Oh,
really
I've
cool.
watched that video. I don't know who it was, but I know which one you're talking about. That was cool.
Yeah.
No, pretty awesome. So okay, so new tank. Are you gonna go longer, taller, roughly the same, custom? Any idea, or just see what pops up? What price is right, and go from there?
I mean, it really it is a budget. You know,
Yep.
like, that's the biggest thing right now is the budget. You know, put a lot and saved a lot to start the tank up.
hmm
So like trying to looking at like a, for example, like a custom like glass cages. I today I was just like quickly looking through. I'm like, okay, that's going to be close to 2 grand now. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it adds up.
and that's just for a for a 120 tall, basically
Yep.
a 90 gallon, just mid tall. Because I
hmm
was thinking like, oh, maybe I should just like do the same footprint. I have it all set up. I just plop the tank in, you know, connect the plumbing, do a little bit of finagling here and there with how the new overflow or the this is going to be, but then I'm thinking like, for roughly the same price, I can go probably a little wider,
Yep.
So that's really what I'm like. That's me like my next couple of days.
Yeah. I would, for fun, look at some prices on some custom ones because it's actually not bad, especially if you're going to reuse your stand. Because the
Exactly.
stand, if you look at a pre-made one, like a lot of the stands is a huge chunk of it. And like my last couple I've done steel stands, minus the water box that came with their fancy stand. But it's not too bad if you can compare it to like buying like a Red Sea or something or doing a custom one. Like you can get more tank for less if you're not worried about the pretty furniture to go with it, right? So
Exactly. Like
yeah.
currently, I'm just looking for a glass box.
Yeah.
That's all I need right now.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, with the Red Sea, they have a really nice, full package, with the whole furniture and the
Yep.
removable panels and this or canopy, and then you can add in like a sump and package and all lights, and it,
Yep.
it's cool. But
Hmm.
I have all that, so I'm not going to rip out the stuff that I built to just put in something, manufactured like that. So yeah, so I'm just looking for a glass box to just plop on top of this thing and do it again. But yeah, so I'm thinking I can go up, a foot or two more, in either direction.
I think you should because an excuse for an upgrade is always a good thing, and then you feel like you've progressed a bit because you're like, yeah, this one's bigger and better.
Yeah, you know what? I
Yep.
went. I took that next step.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
briefing. You take little steps. You
Hmm.
start with like little 40-gallon. You start off with a couple Zoas, and then you're like, oh my god, now I have all these Zoas, but wait, I want to get like all these torches, but I have no room. So then you get to
Hmm.
75, and so forth. So
Yeah.
I start out with the 90, and that's like a common size to start with, I guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, might as well, especially if it's going to be within the ballpark range of getting
Hmm.
another 90, and then
Yep.
a couple $100 more for 120 or maybe bigger.
Yep.
Why not?
Exactly. There. One of my buddies, Dylan, he has like the tank we like mounted on the walls, kind of like a floating tankish.
Okay.
On his original tank, he had like a standard issue, like 4 foot tank, like rim tank. And we are like drilling it for an overflow box. I'm like, you sure it's not tempered? He's like, yeah, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, you sure? He's like, yeah, yeah, it's fine. Drilling it, the whole back thing shatters. And like after that, he looks at it and there's this little sticker on the bottom. It's like tempered. And it's just like, ah. But then he ended up buying a custom tank that was, 5 foot and rimless and blah, blah, blah. And later he's like, I'm so happy I did this. He's like, this is so much nicer after like going through all this work. So it was like a blessing in disguise. So
I mean, that
silver
that
linings.
actually crossed my mind too. I was like, do I, go to like Petco or something online and buy a Joe Schmo black rim tank,
Yep.
120, whatever, and then drill out and everything. I'm like,
Mhm.
but just going through all that, those all those extra steps and everything.
Yep.
I'd rather just throw a couple $100 and just jump.
Done. Perfect. That's what you want. Ready to roll. Yep.
How do
So
you usually determine, say, if there's no stickers on the tank? How do you determine if it's tempered or not?
if
I've heard
you
I've heard like two ways.
Okay, so the way that I know is if you use polarized sunglasses, you can use like a laptop screen or like an LCD screen beside it. And if you tilt it one way, will make it turn black, and the other way, you'll be able to see it. Now, I don't even remember which was which, but I think that means it's tempered. Um, Now, I know if you're wearing polarized sunglasses and you look at a car window, you'll see weird spots and weird things in
Thoughts?
it because of the tempered. So I don't know. But the laptop thing, supposedly, polarized sunglasses, tilt it, Google it. I can't remember, but I believe if it goes black, that means it's tempered. But
Yeah,
it's been a
yeah,
while.
that's the way I know, and like because like a lot of people come up and like, well, can you drill tempered and this and that? I'm like, well, I would,
Apparently, it's possible, but extremely tricky.
yeah, exactly. I tell them that that I think there's a 1% of people that have drilled through tempered glass as a hobbyist, maybe
Yep.
have made it.
The
It's a lot different if you're like in the glass industry and you maybe have
Yeah.
tools for it. But in the backyard with the DeWalt drill, with it's not
Hmm.
gonna happen.
The one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is I remember when he was drilling it. I don't know if it was me or him. I think he was doing it, thankfully. But I think it was about 90% of the way through before it finally popped. So it was so close to being like fairly
Just that
through, which
little,
surprised me because I would assume temper would have, halfway or like pretty close to the beginning. Um, there's a phone app for polarized. Huh, interesting. Apparently, there's a
that's
phone app. So there you go. Polarized sunglasses. That's the key, though. And then some kind of an LCD screen. That's that's the half answer to the test. Google for the specifics because I can't quote it for sure.
I mean, I've I I use Google a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. So there is the right tool to drill through tempered and like no pressure. You have to go extremely slow.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's possible. It's doable. Not easy, but doable. Risky business.
I mean, I mean, it makes sense because when you're like, say you're, if you have one of those like sliding shower glass
Yeah.
doors
They're
in your
tempered.
bath,
They have holes. Yeah.
they have holes in them, and
Yep.
they don't make the glass with the holes already. Yeah, they gotta drill through it. So yeah, there has to be a way. So
Or they drill it and they temper it later.
or or that.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have, ironically, whenever I aquascape, when I ordered like the glass shower from like Costco online or whatever, and it was delivered, one of the panels was shattered, so they reshipped it. So I have this big glass panel, one of the surviving pieces. That's like my aquascaping table now. It's great. Because then you could use cement to make like little feet for the rocks, and it's nice and flat because it's already on glass. But
And then you could like move it around, just slide it right off.
yeah, so it kind of works.
Yeah.
Actually, the cement sticks to it sometimes, it's a bit of a bugger, but yeah. Oh, good times. So, any other thoughts or recommendations or things you would change or do again, or things you're happy or wish you if think hopefully never have to deal with this again, but if you did, if something ever did happen, I think once in a lifetime's like your quota's filled, so you're safe now. But
Hopefully, I really
yes,
hope that this is my box has been checked.
yep,
That I have had a tank that has popped and leaked. So
yep,
hopefully
you're
now
good.
I'll be good for maybe the next 10 years. Hopefully, maybe 20. Who knows?
I think you're
But
good now. You're safe.
yeah, so I think it's really being prepared for the worst. I mean, I understand some people, live in apartments or this and that, and sort of hard to store a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
But I mean, anything that you can have around the house, like I said, like the smaller 20-gallon or the 22-gallon Rubbermaid buckets that stack.
Yep.
Those they're like low profile. If you have the space to get one of those big troughs, why
Hmm.
not? You
Yeah,
know,
that'd be handy.
um, equipment, extra pumps, extra heaters,
Yep.
like if you have corals, especially if you have a lot of SPS, and if you're able to save them, because
Hmm.
that's really like a tough thing
Yep.
when you're in that scenario. But even just LPS, if you have a lot of torches that you want to try to save, you have to be able make sure you're able to either take off your lights, or if you have some old lights from the old tank, or something to put some par on those
Yep.
things. And after that, it's really just making sure you have a clear mindset, and you just try to remain calm,
Hmm.
because
The
that's one thing
tricky
that
part.
happened to me last night. I did not remain calm,
Yeah.
and
It's
that's when
hard
things go
though.
bad.
It's hard
That
to be calm when chaos is happening all around you.
exactly. So it's tough, like in stressful situations like that.
Hmm.
But like like I said before, when I just put that dry side of the MP40 into the tank, I wasn't thinking, you know.
Yeah. Well, did you rinse it off? I'd rinse it off really well in RODI or alcohol or something, and then just let it dry out for days before you even try turning it back on.
Yeah, actually, currently right now it's in a bag of rice.
Okay. Well, actually, you said the breaker popped, right? So
Well, yeah, the breaker pops. So I'm hoping that that didn't fry because the fan plopped into um, the sump because that's what actually
yeah,
initially made the breaker pop.
yeah. Okay.
So so hopefully it dries out. Nothing's fried on the
Now,
inside.
throwing this out because it fell in salt water, I would actually rinse it off with RODI or something else first.
I did.
Okay, just to make sure there's no salt and stuff, right? Because the water can come off, but the salt can still corrode metal inside of it. Where if you want to get all that off and then let it fully dry out.
I actually did it. I actually did a RODI soak.
Okay, okay, good.
So,
Okay,
and, because exactly, all the little electronics, the fuses, all the all that stuff
yeah.
packed into that little tiny dry side.
Hmm.
It's like a little mini computer. So
I know it's crazy. Now,
right now it's in a bag of rice, like
if
old
you're
self.
if you're totally buggered, I might have a non-quiet dry side my shed somewhere if I can find it. If it's buggered, then we know. Yeah,
I'm gonna test it like in a couple of days. I
yeah.
really want to get it really dry and
Wait
see.
like
And
a
if
week,
it's
just be
on,
safe.
yeah.
Yeah. Emmanuel, can you give us a quick resume on what happened? Joined late, missing what went wrong.
Oh,
You can get the close notes.
okay. Well, the cliff notes of it. I
Oh.
uh, came home from work, checked on my tank. Everything was good. Did my
Mhm.
routine um, checking that I think everybody does. Okay, sump is good. This is that. Okay, light's good. Okay, cool. Dropped a couple cubes of mysis, and then went to go have pizza at my in-laws. Uh, After that, came home at around 8 o'clock and walked in, and water everywhere in my living room. Carpets soaked, everything soaked. 5 inches of water missing in the main display. I thought maybe my auto top off was going crazy. That was dry. And so, in a nutshell, there was a seam that busted on one of the side panels on underneath, and slowly trickled out. And that's where I'm
Dang.
here with my
There
tank.
was a tank behind you yesterday. So
Usually it's like right here, nice, beautiful blue.
yeah, so yesterday there was a beautiful tank, and now you have some very nice driftwood with your YouTube/Instagram name on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah. Well, at least you put something there, filled the void
Yeah,
temporarily.
I have actually my this little leather like box that says Papa's Reef,
Yeah.
Papa's Fish Tank Fund. That's when I was first saving up for this hobby, like a
Nice.
year or two ago, whatever.
Yep.
So I found it in the closet, decided to
But
put it back, and it's
re,
Papa's Fish
re,
Tank Fund again.
the rebuild fund. No, that's good. Now, so you're going to rebuild, and people want to follow along. I also did put your Instagram in the description, so check it out later. You can see the lovely tank that was there, and then the new one that's coming to be bigger
New
and
one,
badder and better.
you can see pictures of the actual disaster, and there's a little video there too, with all leaking and towels everywhere. Luckily, I turned off the sound to that because there's a lot of
A lot of swears. Oh, I don't blame you, man. I feel so bad for you because it's just a shitty situation.
even in a shitty situation. The biggest thing that I took out of this, I was amazed how many phone calls and
Mhm.
messages and well wishes on different forums and the Facebook pages and this and that. Uh, how much support I've gotten from the
Mhm.
reefing community, and that right there is, to me, is why I think I'm going to keep going,
Yeah.
because you have all this support, and I also want to give back support when somebody else has the same problem in 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and I want to be right there for them too.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think in general, reefers are like awesome people, and I know, like even I had an issue. Someone's like, "Oh, you can borrow this tank," da da da. Like had
Oh yeah,
stuff to do it,
yeah.
right? Which
Like
which is awesome.
I bunch of messages. Hey, like bring the fish over. Hey, you need any help? I'm like 2 hours away. I can come over. I can help you out. This and that. It was overwhelming how much support I got.
Yep.
So
No.
it was I got to say, last night was a little emotional too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's just part of the game too.
No, it's true. Well, I'm excited to see what the new tank is, so you'll have to
So,
keep us updated as it goes.
gonna
And
have
I,
a new build. A new
yep,
build. I'm gonna keep everybody updated, and
exactly.
I think it's gonna be fun.
No,
Be
it's going to
cool.
be good. And I appreciate you coming on because I know this was literally 24 hours ago, so it's still fresh.
No,
So I
it's,
appreciate it, man.
and
It's been good.
I hope maybe I can give, I gave, somebody that this happened to, or you
Hmm.
know if it happens to them, I hope this sort of gives them a little, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. After
Exactly.
all the disaster, you'll still you'll be okay. You'll be
Exactly.
okay. The fish will be okay. Maybe
Hmm.
sometimes not, but but for the most part, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and
Yep.
that's today, this
Exactly.
evening. I see it, and I'm gonna go for it.
Yep. Heck yes. Bigger, badder, stronger, better.
Oh yeah,
Beauty. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on today. If you
thank you.
guys haven't,
Thank
check out his Instagram in the description below. Give it a follow. Follow along for the new rebirth journey of Reef Tank version 2.
Definitely. Thanks, man. Take care.
Okay, thanks, guys. And if you guys enjoyed tonight's stream, as